This episode is brought to you by Audi. The road is calling. Embrace the thrill of the drive with the all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron. Featuring effortless power, serious acceleration, and advanced Audi tech. It's not just a new EV. It's a new way to experience driving. The all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron is here. The next chapter of Audi starts now.
Imagine what's possible when learning doesn't get in the way of life. At Capella University, our game-changing FlexPath learning format lets you set your own deadlines so you can learn at a time and pace that works for you. It's an education you can tailor to your schedule. That means you don't have to put your life on hold to pursue your professional goals. Instead, enjoy learning your way and earn your degree without missing a beat. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
Hey, I'm Amanda from Trifecta Fitness. We're proud to be Clarksville's new Get Fit headquarters. Trifecta Fitness is a state-of-the-art spin and strength training studio. Our spin studio is truly one of a kind in this area, complete with 20 state-of-the-art live fitness bikes and an incredible sound system. Our strength training is done in small groups of 6 or fewer, and all of our strength and spin classes are scalable for every level of experience. Come see us in the heart of Clarksville, just behind MAPCO at the corner of Old Trenton Road and Wilma Rudolph Boulevard. Call us for more info at 931-542-6265 or download our Trifecta Fitness app for a full list of upcoming classes.
For every veteran, there is a story about a calling to serve, to fight for the freedoms of the American people. And every story has a struggle, a sacrifice, and invisible wounds. Warrior Watts programs help veterans recover from PTSD and invisible wounds through exercise, nutrition, and connecting with other veteran leaders. It is estimated that 22 veterans die each day by suicide, and another 30 veterans die each day by substance abuse. These are preventable deaths. Warrior Watt is committed to fighting PTSD through fitness, nutrition, and community.
All right. Welcome back.
Misfit Nation. The Misfit Nation Show.
We are a show founded by a veteran and hosted by 2 veterans and a military spouse. Our mission is to get people to tell their stories to the world. If you're an author, share your tips with the Misfit Nation. If you're a musician or an actor, our audience need to know how they too can get into the business. Coaches, we love our coaches. Come on and share your tips with the Misfit Nation to help them become better versions of themselves. If you are a corporate leader or an entrepreneur, come on and show how you did it and how hard you have fought for success. If you are a veteran, first responder, or Gold Star family, we would love to have you come on and share your story with the Misfit Nation. We always have time for you. If you're feeling down, alone, or starting to see the darkness, Stop. Think about those who are around you. You are not alone. You will be missed. If you feel like your problems will be a burden to those in your inner circle or feel embarrassed, dial 988. If you are a veteran, take option 1. We need you to keep pushing forward. Don't make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you are a new listener, welcome to the Misfit Nation Show. Be sure to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast app. Also on our YouTube channel at @the_Misfit Nation. Subscribe and click the bell to keep you up to date on our latest episodes and all of our news. You can also find us on Heroes Media Group and About Face Radio. Now, let's get to the show!
All
All right. The ToosDay Crue is here, hosted by Stephen LaMonica and Jake Collin. It is a Misfit Nation production that brings powerful stories of grit, resilience, and leadership to life. Stephen is a business leader and YouTube consigliere. He ensures the show runs smoothly, providing real-time feedback and maintaining discipline during live broadcast. Jake, a 25-year Army veteran and former EOD tech. We call him Hurt Locker. We call him Lacey. Offers deep insights from his extensive service, which includes multiple combat deployments and VIP missions around the globe. Together, they welcome guests from diverse backgrounds to share their journeys, inspiring listeners with stories of overcoming adversity and leading with purpose. Whether you're tuning in for the insightful discussions or to enjoy Steven's passion for NASCAR or Jake's anecdotes from his farm in Kentucky, the ToosDay Crue delivers a unique blend of entertainment and inspiration every week. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ToosDay Crue! All right. The ToosDay Crue is back. It's New Year, a new time, a new way. They're here to rock your waves. They're here to spread the news, make things go right, and share stories of great people. But first, as always, we have to pay homage to those we've lost in this past week. We made it a few days into the year without losing any officers, and now we have lost two. Officer Cameron Richardson, Detroit Police Department. End of watch, January 5th, 2025, U.S. Army veteran. Lieutenant Mark Meadows, Irondale Police Department, Alabama. End of watch, January 6th, 2025, U.S. Army veteran. Keep their friends, their families, their peers in your thoughts and prayers as they go through this tough time. Remember, it's easier to be nice than it is to be evil. Keep your eyes on the prize. Keep moving forward towards success. And now, let's get to Cagney. Let's get to Lacey. And let's see them rock this show! Take it, boys!
Thank you for that introduction.
What an introduction.
Good evening, Misfit Nation. Hello, ToosDay Crue. Jake, how are you?
I am good. This new year starting off great, and I'd just like to wish everybody out there listening, hope they had a great Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever they celebrate. I hope that they had a good one, and I hope everybody's having a good new year.
It's safe and healthy to everybody.
Safe and healthy. Hey, before we get started, I want to mention we have some very loyal listeners in Nepal. And there was a pretty bad earthquake in Tibet, and I think it affected some folks in Nepal, and I hope everybody over there is okay. I just, our thoughts and prayers go out to them, and I hope that everybody's all right.
Yes. Other than that, how's everything by you today?
It's
besides cold. If I hear cold one more time.
Well, it's kind of cold. All the water to all the animals is freezing, so got to go out and take care of them a couple times a day, and it's just I don't know. As I get older, I'm more of a summertime guy.
Aren't we all? The weather changes, and I can hardly walk on my outside. So, this is things we got to push through.
Yeah, but as long as Mrs. Holland keeps that good hot soup coming, I'm good.
Soup is good for the soul.
Hey, we got a great guest this evening. He is hailing from St. Paul, Minnesota. His name is Mark Connor. He's a boxing trainer, writer, I should say former boxer, and he's got over 100 fights under his belt, trained at the Olympic Training Center. I read where he boxed in the Pan Am Games, and he's just, Midwest United States Gold Gloves. He's just very accomplished, but he's also a writer, and his first book, It's About Time. We'll have him talk about that, and it's kind of an autobiography, and he's got some poetry in there, and he's done a lot of work for the community in and out around the St. Paul area. And let's jump him in here and let's see what he's all about.
Hi,
Mark.
Good evening, Mark. How are you?
how you doing, guys?
We're good. Thank
Doing
you.
great.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
We gave just a short little introduction on you. Why don't you just go ahead and start from whenever you want to start and bring us up to now and tell us about yourself.
Okay, yeah, Mark Connor is my name. The book you're talking about, it's About Time. Millions of copies sold for Dad is the full title. It's autobiography that reads like a novel with 20 poems running through it. And I am a boxer and writer. I call myself a literary pugilist, which is to say the only two things I've been really good at in my life are boxing and writing. So those are the things that I do. I started boxing when I was 10 years old. I began writing seriously when I was 16 years old. I grew up in St. Paul, Minnesota. I call myself a product of a mixed marriage because, as I explained in the book, my dad grew up across the street from St. Columba Parish in St. Paul. My mom grew up in Minneapolis across the border. So that makes it a mixed marriage, St. Paul and Minneapolis. And so I wrote this book in early 2021, and it was a book I wrote to deal with having lost my father on September 30th of 2019. So for the year after, into fall, winter of 2020, I was mourning his death, and I decided that I'm going to write this book. I'm going to do something to make him that he would be really happy with seeing me do. And as the next year came up, I kind of just wallowed in my sorrow for the year following his death. But you got to think of the time that it was 2020 was really the bulk of the time after he died, because it was end of 2019. So our country was going through a lot at that time, and the world was going through a lot at that time, and so was I with the loss of my father. And actually, the stuff we were going through, a lot of it kind of blew up right here where I'm from. And so the book really deals with all of that. And so really, if you remember, and so it was, so the way I came up with the title is I watched my father die. And as I watched him die, I'm thinking to myself, here I've come through my 40s, and I'm not married. I don't have children, and I have never published a book. And he had never seen me do that. And I said to myself, I've procrastinated too much in my life. I need to just push it and get this thing done. And we'd had an argument about actually having a book published at this stage in my life a few years earlier, and kind of walked away angry at each other after that argument. And that was something that really motivated me, because he was trying to get on my case about, I hold on to things too long. I have a lot of different work I've been doing for a long time. I want to get it just perfect, and I don't release it and let it go. And that's really kind of I believe psychologically, deep inside, that's kind of a fear of trying to being a perfectionist and just not letting things go. And his kind of whole idea to me was, why don't you just get something done, put it out there, and then go on to the next thing. I mean, if that thing takes off, great. But if it doesn't, you're doing the next thing and keep going, and, get your momentum going and everything. And that's really, talk about boxing and writing. I mean, as a boxer, really getting that first step, getting to the gym the first day, getting that first step to do the running in the morning, those kind of things, it builds up the routine. It's the same thing with with writing, just writing the first word every day, and just spending the amount of time that you have to just to get a little bit on the page. And I mean, I can give you some excerpts of that, which would actually explain it really well, if you wanted to hear some. But you may have some questions before. However, we want the conversation to go.
Well, yeah, hit us with some excerpts out of the book, and then after we do that, I noticed in your biography you've done some other work with some other things we kind of want to get into as well.
Right. That sounds good. Okay, so, so at the end of chapter 1, let me see, it's page 13 here. Okay, so this is just a very short excerpt. Okay, at the very end of chapter 1. So I've kind of had a story going on. Well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with the very first page to give you kind of a really quick introduction. I came up with the title of this book on September 30, 2019, the day my father died. Dad had been on life support since September 20, when he'd had a heart attack in a rental car in a Costco parking lot in San Francisco, California, 5 minutes from the airport to which he and Mom were about to drive to catch a plane home. I was supposed to pick them up at the Twin Cities International Airport. Mom had called me just after 3 p.m. as I bought a sandwich at the Jimmy John's on Grand Avenue in St. Paul. Mom and Dad had been sitting in that rental car discussing their great 4-day vacation, staying at the Marines Memorial Club in San Francisco. They were talking about how much they loved each other, how much they loved their 2 sons and their daughter-in-law, Kelly, my brother David's wife, and their 2 grandchildren, Liam, 15, and Caroline, 13. They were talking about how lucky they were and how great a marriage they'd had for over 51 years, and how they couldn't wait to get back home to the blessings of their family, friends, and life. Dad began pulling out of the parking spot and was struck with a heart attack, slumping over the wheel. Mom put the car in park and jumped out, yelling for help. Their guardian angels were watching over them. 2 EMTs, there was a health fair going on at the Costco. 2 EMTs responded, one of them utilizing a defibrillator, keeping Dad alive. 10 days later, shortly after 1 p.m. Pacific time, which is 3 p.m., the hour of divine mercy, in our hometown of St. Paul, I led Mom in the rosary, the litany of the Blessed Virgin Mary, the canonization prayer for Blessed Solanus Casey, and the chaplet of divine mercy over Dad in his hospital bed. He'd gotten his last rites 3 times in 10 days, the last time around 9:30 that morning. That priest also gave him the apostolic pardon, reinstated by Pope Benedict XVI. Dad had his St. Christopher medal around his neck, just as he had one Saturday morning when I, at age 5, and David, 6, encouraged by Mom's giddy smile behind her instructions, woke Dad up and climbed into bed with him to tell him it was time for breakfast. I remember being on his left side, David just beneath his shoulder, and my face resting on the sheet covering his chest, just below his left pec near his heart. David touched the chain around Dad's neck, pointing, saying, "Look, Mark, Dad wears that in case they find him dying somewhere." "Really?" I said. "Like when he was in the army?" "Yeah," David said. "What do you call it, Dad?" "This," Dad said, pinching the medal between his thumb and forefinger. "That's my St. Christopher's medal." He held it off his chest so we could see, then turned it around where there were words etched upon it. "What's that say?" I asked. "It says I am a Catholic. Please call a priest." David was really smart. He was pointing that medal out to me and asking Dad about it for my benefit. He wanted me to see that Dad had something around his neck to safeguard his religious practice, something that would remind others to facilitate his wish to be cared for and guided at the time of death by a priest. This was important to Dad, important to family, important in life. We were Catholic. Now, I'm going to jump way ahead and give you this last little bit here, okay? Which is the end of chapter 1. So you're missing a lot, but that sets something up about the story, and a lot that's in here. There's a lot in a short bit of words. There were some other poems I put together qualifying for appropriate inclusion in this book. I've always held myself, of course, to the highest of standards, never believing any of these poems ready for an attempt at publication. So I never tried, which is why I so embarrassingly titled the story, It's About Time. Dad challenged me once, as far back, I believe, as 2012, asking me why by the age of 40 I hadn't published at least one book. If I really was a writer, as I asserted myself to be, I should have been able to publish at least 5 novels or other books by then. I told him to lay off, that there were legitimate reasons for current incompletion, and that literary success was on its way. But that was all an excuse. The real reason was a lie in my heart that my work was going to be great. I just needed time to concentrate, which is always delayed right now for the job or the friend in trouble or another excuse, which justified not trying. The truth is I was scared, so I never dared. If this book, which can fall flat in its face, is never presented to the public, I'll never know if you, the reader, recognize my talent. If it does, in fact, fall flat in its face, at least metaphorically, I fall flat on mine. However, so what? It's about time. So if you want more explanation about that,
we do have a question that came in from one of the listeners.
All right.
It's from Cav Till Death. Your book, It's About Time, is deeply personal. What emotions did you experience revisiting your journey, and how has publishing it shaped your perspective on your father's legacy?
Okay. The emotions, a lot of sadness, a lot of regret, then a lot of joy, a lot of gratitude. Because in between what I read in the very beginning there, now that's flashing back to when I was 5 years old, 4 years old, and then up to 50, and that's, I'm so grateful that I had my parents married, stayed together with me and my brother, just 13 days short of a year older than I am, and it wasn't we weren't a perfect family, I mean, we fought and we had our problems and everything, but we always stayed together and we always loved each other, and and then what was the thing about the legacy of my father? The last part of the question?
How had it
shaped your perspective
on
your father's legacy?
On his legacy? Well, I mean, part of it's because I'm older too. Is it helps me sympathize with him more for what he went through in life, and also into not hold him to too high of judgment for the things that he wasn't able to do, and at the same time makes me feel more in awe of him for the things that he did do and the sacrifices that he did make in his life for me and for my brother and for his grandchildren and for his family also. I mean, he did a lot to care for his younger siblings and just to help them out in their adulthood, and he was kind of, I think of him as like a chieftain, I mean, like in his in his immediate family, he was the eldest of the family, and he was the guy that kind of took care of things, and he also was pretty well known around St. Paul and the Twin Cities. He made his living, which I don't actually mention in the book. I talk about him working with veterans quite a bit, because he worked with the Military Order of the Purple Heart, the DAV, and the VFW. But he was a independent insurance salesman, so he knew everybody in town, and it had been a little bit. It worked for the state a little bit, and so he knew the political networks and everything too. And a lot of people came to his funeral, and people really loved him, and couldn't say enough. There was so much, they couldn't stop saying good things about him.
Sounds like a very good man. Sounds like a very good man.
He was pretty cool. There's one other thing that that I think you'll find interesting, which is towards the end of the book about him, is that, so I said he worked with the military of the Purple Heart. I'll talk about it. So my father died in San Francisco. I ended up flying down there. My brother had gone down there it was a Friday, and then that Sunday my brother went down there for the full week with my to be with my mom, and then he came back. He's a public defender, Ramsey County public defender in St. Paul, so he had to be back at work. And being a literary pugilist, I have a more flexible schedule and a lot less stable income. But I was able to fly down there on Saturday, and then I was there that Monday, the 30th, when of September 2019, when he died. And so I talk about how my mom and I I'd be there with my mom that week to bring him home. And so I say we flew back home on Friday, October 4th. The visitation was Monday, October 14th, the funeral, burial, and wake on Tuesday, October 15th. Dad got the rifle squad gun salute, and Mom was presented the American flag and the empty shell casings. Later, Representative Betty McCollum sent another flag, one that had been flown in his honor outside the Capitol building in Washington, D.C., along with a letter to Mom honoring him for his advocacy for U.S. military veterans. The Friday before he died, while watching him on life support, Mom actually answered a call to Dad's mobile phone from McCollum's aide, asking if he would be making his appointment at 1:00 that day to discuss veterans issues with her. That's how he lived, always on to the next thing, giving of himself, doing the best he could, and making the most out of every day. As David said, Dad died at 74 and in 1/2 years, but he packed about 150 years into them. So, he used to go with the Purple Heart delegation and the DAV delegation to Washington and try to lobby for benefits and for veterans issues, and he just was always talking to those politicians. So while he was there on life support, here comes the call saying, hey, is he going to make his appointment today? And the fact that we got that flag sent to us, that was actually flown at the, man, in Washington. I mean, I'm sorry, but that is like, I think about that all the time. I don't cry about my dad anymore. But man, whenever I talk about, it surprised me every time I talk about that particular story. That brings it back to me, because, man, I mean, like, there's something I wasn't going to expect that. I mean, I don't think he was expecting that. You know what I mean? So
that's quite an honor, and it just shows. And well, first of all, I salute, talking for all veterans. I salute your father for the work that he did for veterans. That's a very noble cause, and it is appreciated. It is appreciated.
Yeah. He was he was a pretty cool guy. He was being his son, you could be hard to deal with, but that's the nature of childhood and family and fatherhood and everything.
If we could realize how cool our fathers are when we're teenagers instead of when we're over 40, that life would be so much easier.
Yeah.
Hey,
Very
man,
true.
would you though? It sure would. I mean, it's pretty amazing. I had I had some friends that was uh, some friends from high school that they're the cool kids, and they were actually the great they were a grade older than I was, and they were athletes and that, and I was always I wanted to be the tough guy, and I wanted to be accepted as cool and everything like that, and I was complaining about my dad because my dad was on my case about this or about that, and one guy said to me, you know quit talking about your dad like that all the time. He said, stop, you're always saying that. He said, stop doing it. I don't want to hear it anymore. He sounds like a pretty good guy. So, that was pretty cool. But so did you have another question, or I can just go on and start?
We
'Cause I
have
can write.
We have multiple
we have
questions.
more questions coming in from listeners.
Oh, wow.
Pop up this next one from Lulu Getting So at so how has your Catholic faith and exploration of Lakota traditions influenced your outlook on life and your approach to storytelling?
Okay. So well, the one thing about the Catholic faith is that there's always I went to the only reason I didn't go to Catholic school for kindergarten is because our Catholic school hadn't had a kindergarten yet. So I went across the street to the public school, and then the next year I went to first grade, and so in Catholic school you always had story, because you've got this biblical story that you're always dealing with anyway. So there's a story being told there all the time. Then you're being told lives of saints and stuff like that, and that's all incorporated into everything else, history and whatever else you have. So I think that there's just a tradition of storytelling that's exists within kind of Catholic culture, whichever nationality you come from, and so then that brings in the traditions that come from different nationalities mixed in with that religious tradition. The Lakota thing, I found I had met this Irish American poet named Kevin O'Rourke, who was he was a Mississippi River barge hand poet. And that's literally what he did. He worked for 20 plus years on the tugboats in the Mississippi River. He was in his 40s. I was in my early 20s when I met him, and he told me about these Lakota sun dances, and that's how he'd found his sobriety, was walking on the Red Road with the Native American Indian community, and he ended up taking me to the sun dances down in Rosebud Reservation, and I got this job at Anda Young, our home center, which is it's a Ojibwe name for, which means Andayung, AINDAHYUNG, is Ojibwe for our home. It's a homeless shelter for Native American Indian kids. Well, it's a Native American Indian homeless shelter. It'd take all kids, but it was primarily Native Americans, ages 5 to 17. So they'd have a capacity of five boys and 5 girls between the ages of 5 and 17, and it's a temporary emergency shelter, so the population always changed. So I had that experience of being kind of immersed in that community for 13 and a half years or so. And what I was really, at that time in my life, in my mid-20s, I was kind of exploring my spiritual beliefs, and I always kept my Catholic faith, but I was kind of leaning towards maybe I'd step into this tradition or that tradition, and close to even abandoning it at one point. But what made me really comfortable with exploring the Native American spiritual approach was if I felt that there was still a presence of the Holy Spirit, that there was still something there that was, while it was different, that there was still something similar enough that there was a universal connection where it's okay to be in this circle and I'm not completely denying my faith. And one thing that I found that was very similar or very kind of parallel to the Catholic tradition is in the sweat lodge, the when you go into the sweat lodge, they have these rocks in the center of it that they pour water on. They're heated up and they pour water on that gives you the steam. On those rocks during the ceremony, they believe that the ancestors come in and dance on the rocks, and at the end of the ceremony, they've been listening to the prayers, and then as they leave, they're bringing the prayers to God. And I always thought of that as metaphorically speaking, as a parallel to the communion of saints. Now, it's not the same thing, but it's a parallel and it's a connection. So I think that what I find is that in different traditions, we look at where we have similarities and say, okay, through this similarity, how does it point to the larger truth? In that larger truth, can we agree on that? We don't have to necessarily practice each other's traditions. You don't have to convert to my faith necessarily. Me convert to yours, but can we recognize the actual creator? There is a higher power that's God. So that's something I think that breaks down barriers for people to understand those similarities that we can find. And so anyway, then I also had this kind of identity. I have this. So my last name is Connor. I'm not full-blooded Irish, right? And the Connor family has been in the United States since my great-grandfather's great-grandfather in 1772. He was indentured to an Englishman in Pennsylvania named Abraham Holmes, and his name was Timothy Connor. And 2.5 years later, he got out of his servitude and he joined the Continental Army and he fought in the Revolutionary War. Okay, and my family used to have. There are 50 families that descend from him in the United States, and we used to have a family reunion every other year in different states. And we had in 1992. I was at a reunion in Derry, Pennsylvania, where he had a farm, and so I have this love for the United States of America and this belief in America because there's that foundation of establishing this country and having won that Revolutionary War. And then so I also have the belief in the right of every nation to have their own independence. And so I have that kind of identification with the underdog. And so I have a little kind of a rebel kind of spirit. So I have this idea of wanting to see Ireland have its own independence, and I also have an understanding with American Indians. You're American citizens, but you also have your sovereignty, and I like this, and so I have an identity with an identification with that, just kind of the tendency to root for the underdog. So there's that solidarity in there. So that kind of works in with everything. I think that kind of, you understand what I'm saying? I have that empathy.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so I try to, I have this concept that I mentioned in the book, and I mentioned in one of the poems of the point of merger of difference and unity, and where let's just leave it at that. I have this concept of the point of merger of difference and unity. I won't elaborate beyond that.
All right. We got more questions coming in. I think a lot of folks went to your website because they're talking about stuff that we haven't even talked about yet. Bad Goat Hair 2, he was reading your website and researching your work, and he wants to know, have you worked with the United Tribes at Little Earth in Minneapolis?
I did not work directly with United Tribes of Little Earth. I have been to Little Earth, and I did there's a scene in this book where I'm talking about sitting on top of the All Nations Indian Church, which is United. I forget what you call the denomination. United Church of Christ community on East 23rd Street and Bloomington Avenue. The last 3 nights, Mike Gozy assigned me to be on top of that building, to just watch things and everything. This was during the riots, during the George Floyd riots in 2020, during the curfew after the police station was burnt down across the street. I'm not sure the scenario exactly what happened. I'm presuming that it wasn't intentionally someone lit McGeezy Community Center or McGeezy Communications on fire, but there was a post office next to it, and that was burnt. And then this American Indian Community Center, McGeezy Communications, also got burnt down. And Mike Gozy, who is the director of the American Indian Community Development Corporation, put a call out to people in the community to come out and defend Native American buildings. And AIM, the American Indian Movement, ran it. And I used to work with some of the people that were involved with kind of organizing this and everything. And Darwin Strong, who was a big part of Andai Young community, and with whom I used to go with him and his wife, Gabby Strong, was the executive director when I first worked at Andai Young. I used to go down to a Sundance in Kyle, South Dakota on the Pine Ridge Reservation with him between 1999 and 2003. He had sent me a message a day after asking me, would you go join up with these guys who are protecting buildings? And so I did that for the next week. But I did not ever work. And so I've got this scene here where I'm talking about being on top of the building, and I can hear, 4 blocks over where the Little Earth projects are. I can hear the drumming and the singing. I'm just sitting there thinking about my dad and just depressed that my dad's dead, and then looking around and just at the city and just thinking of how things are. And what I'm thinking about is, because I'm watching all the stuff that's going on TV, and I'm looking at, we're going out after when it's dark out at night, and we're patrolling and everything, and we're back at this place called what was the name? I'm starting to blank the name of the cafe. It'll come to me in a second, but on Franklin Avenue, this cafe in their parking lot, that was the headquarters. We're looking at our phones every chance we get, just to get updates on things happening and everything. So I see all the chaos that's going on now. People are riding around the country and everything. And I'm just sitting there thinking, my mom was baptized over at Holy Rosary 4 blocks away. That's where my maternal grandparents had grown up and had gotten married. That's across the street from the Little Earth that the questioner is talking about. And then my dad, 5 blocks away from University Avenue, where all the fires are there, that's where he grew up. I was thinking to myself, this is really crazy. My dad died. All the shutdown happened. I'm just trying to recover, and the shutdown happened. just so much chaos started happening in 2020. It just one thing after another. It's just like and it's been a really strange thing because I understand that each year I get older, so things happen, and life just kind of gets faster and everything. But it seems like we're just at this period of time that no one would expect, that so many things are going to be happening so rapidly now. And anyway, that's kind of a long answer to no. I did not actually work at Little Earth, but Darwin Strong, who I mentioned in the book, he was one time a security guard there at Little Earth, and he was also he was a security guard there before he was a Marine. And so, if ask me another question, and at a certain point, I'll find the part where I talk about Little Earth and about Darwin Strong there.
All right. Go ahead, Steve.
At Howland, then, now that your book has been published and won awards, what's next for you in terms of writing, boxing, or other pursuits?
Okay. Well, what's next for me is I want to be able to get a chance to take a breath and start writing some more projects, writing on some other creative projects. I've got a new novel I want to develop. I've got an old novel, the original novel I was going to write that I actually talk about in this book because it kind of got stolen. The only copy of it got stolen from me one time years ago, and I had to rewrite it. And that's it's an interesting kind of a piece of drama that I hope just mention it makes people want to buy the book and try to find out what happened. but and I also intend to write a lot more journalistic commentary and try to get some more time to write about boxing. And then I've thought about writing a little bit about my mother too, but I haven't had that much time to do that, because as I was trying to get this book published, so this book was finished, I started actually writing it as a book, sat down to write it as a book by compiling some of the material I had and then knowing the story I was going to tell. In early March, I think it was around March, in early February, around February 9th, and I finished it, I believe it was March 29th. It was Holy Monday of the week leading up to Easter in 2021. And so I had it written then, and I had a small publisher with whom I was going to publish it in 2022, and roadblock after roadblock after roadblock came up. And then we had falling out at the end of 2022 and went our separate ways and broke the contract. And then at the end of in late March of 2023, I was kind of catching my breath. I was going to start to regroup myself and attempt to get it published. And then my mother ended up in the hospital on March 27th and was in the hospital until the 2nd of June. And then I took care of her thinking she was recovering but had to really care for her every day in the house, June 2nd to on the cusp of the close of the night, the 21st of October, and to 22nd of October, she actually died. She actually, as I was helping her to bed, she actually died. And so since that time, I've just been trying to really just get everything in order. And I was able to get this book published last June, and it was just an incredible effort and a lot that I went through. And it's kind of like I'm in the middle of the ring fighting right now, and I'm just like right I'm just right at the point of like, okay, I've got all I've got. I've given all I can give, and now I've got to give a little bit more. And then as soon as I get through this fight, I'm gonna get on to the next thing. But I'm still thinking about writing all the time, and I'm always gonna write something. I hope that's a satisfactory enough answer for the questioner there.
Yeah, it is. Got another one here from Everyone Hates Brady on X. And yes, everyone does. The tumultuous period of 20 and 21, including the riots and pandemic, significantly impacted your life. How did those challenges shape the themes of your books?
So, okay, so the jacket description, right, it describes it as a saga wrapped around a package of poems guarded by angels, with the narrative style that reads like a novel, contains a collection of poetry, and shares an autobiography. Mark Connor guides us through a journey of love, family, and life that is ours as much as his own, peaking at the point of merger of difference and unity. So, love, family, and life are the ultimate values that I'm expressing with this book. Okay, following him from memory to memory, we feel the eyes upon us, defeat the empire of fear, embrace the kingdom of love, and find 10 minutes a day to be grateful. All the while, we celebrate the city of St. Paul with a friendly nod to Minneapolis, experience Irish influence in neighborhood life, rooted in Catholic cohesion, embraced by Indigenous America in the medicine wheel. We box the perfect metaphor with future world champions, love beauty in a moment of ambivalence, work on a fishing boat in Southeast Alaska, comfort a child in an American Indian shelter for kids, and guard American Indian buildings with guns and riots. Through it all, we honor Dad, mourning his death and remembering his love, sharing a story written for America, valuing fatherhood, defending family, encouraging marriage, and providing hope. So the references I'm making in there are, a lot of them are titles of poems, or they're little phrases that appear in a couple of the poems in the book. But um, I I talk about the city of St. Paul and the connection to Minneapolis. I talk about America, and I'm talk about uh, you know I'm sharing a story written for America, valuing fatherhood, defending family, encouraging marriage, and providing hope. The thing is that there were bad things that happened. There were things to complain about in 2020. Okay, there are legitimate complaints people had. There were reasons for people to be angry, but ultimately, these are some values that keep us together: love, family, and life. Okay, and and not all of us, we don't have, none of us have perfect families, none of us have everything together, but we are a good country, and
Yes.
we are, and we 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 have freedom here. I mean, that's why we have so many people coming here, is because we have so much freedom here. And the thing is that, no, it's not perfect, no, it's not the greatest, and yeah, there are people that do selfish things, but ultimately, I'm looking at the world, and I'm making this observation about the goodness that is in it, and I'm trying to provide hope for people and give them encouragement. And I'm expressing a worldview. The thing is, as I kept seeing all of the cancellations going on, all of the anger and everything, and just every little thing that was happening, I kept saying to myself, um, we, uh, we, I'm going to express what my view is of the world here, And I'm going to show it to you that this is the beauty of say this kind of like a love song to St. Paul. This story really is, and it gives a nice nod to Minneapolis, and in doing so, it's also showing my love for the United States, and this is what I believe life is about, and the way I'm saying it, I really hope I'm accomplishing this expression with enough respect to people who might disagree with my worldview, because I'm talking about my Catholic faith a lot in here, and I'm proclaiming my Catholic faith in here, okay. And as I'm doing it, I'm also talking about the Red Road and saying I love the Red Road. I love the people who I've met on the Red Road, the people in the indigenous community who accepted me as both a relative and a guest. You know what I mean? And and so I'm hoping that people can read it and say, you know, Matt, I don't think I necessarily agree with what you're saying here about this, but you know, I respect the fact that you say it, and I know that you respect me too. And I hope that someone reading it will also say, you know, I can see from what you're writing, I feel some inspiration to make some efforts in my life too. I'm really trying to provide hope with this book. Ultimately, I am.
All right. Well, hey, you know, let's hope that, you know, like you said, providing hope. Let's hope we can get people to kind of put their differences down and kind of realize, hey, we're all in this rock together. We need to get along.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, I could. Is there?
Got another question popped up. You severed a publishing contract due to editorial differences. How did that decision impact your journey, and what lessons did you take from that experience?
Well, so what happened was, yeah, I just knew, you know, I knew that it really bothered me that my mother, she knew I was doing this, and she had pulmonary hypertension. She had this fatal heart disease, and she was diagnosed with heart problems in 2014. And there's a story in here about how her life was saved in 2014. It was just by chance that she ended up having open heart surgery. So she never ended up, you know, dropping dead of a heart attack or anything. So she got an extra 9 years out of her life. But she had read the manuscript, and so she knew I'd written about, you know, her husband. I'd written about my dad, and so she knew the story, but she never got to see it in print. So neither of my parents got to see it in print, and that was really frustrating to me. But I held steady because what this publisher was doing was trying to she was trying to change some of the narration, and it was sounding more like her voice than mine. And it's my own autobiography, right? So there's no way I was going to do that. And this is a professional who is good at what she does, and runs a good company and publishes some good books. But I just had to walk away from it. And Dan Flynn, who's listed here as my literary advisor, he's the author of Famous Minnesotans, Past and Present, and he's the older brother of the deceased, God rest his soul, Vince Flynn, who was a famous spy novelist from St. Paul.
Yes.
He also was a freshman football coach at St. Thomas Academy, where I went to high school. That's how I knew him. He was very supportive of me and told me, you know, an editor should be really more facilitating your voice than anything else. And if you feel like that, you're going to have to stick with it. But then he also said to me, look, man, what's going to be is you're going to have to figure a way to do this yourself. and it's the way that Vince Flynn did it when he got his first novel published. He had actually self-published it, and so he said, "You're going to have to form a company." So Connemara Patch Press is a company that I formed, but it wasn't. I had this kind of notion, this kind of internal kind of judgment about, well, is that what they call vanity press? And it really isn't, because I got a bunch of people to help me with it, and I got someone else, Tony Zernheld in here. He's printing services. He ended up printing up all the marketing copies for me and everything, and then we got it published online, and it's in one bookstore in St. Paul. So it sounds like some people from locally might be. It sounds like some local audiences. If you can get to Irish on Grand in St. Paul, it is available there. Otherwise, it's at boxerswritersmagazine.com/books on both Amazon and Lulu.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Mark,
This hour went by way too fast.
Yeah.
We have to get out of here. We're at 59:45 right now. Hour went too fast. I sure hate that. If we didn't get to your questions tonight, keep trying. We will get to your questions on the next show. I would like to thank the Misfit Nation and tell everybody to like and subscribe. Mark, thank you very much, and good luck with your book, and we'll catch up to you.
Thank you, guys. I enjoyed it so much, man. God bless you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year,
Thank you,
everybody.
Mark. Take care.
All right.
Peace out.
Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the Misfit Nation show. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. That's themisfitnation.com. Check out all our past episodes and get some of the great Misfit Nation gear for you and your family. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling, because we are
Misfit Nation. Misfit Nation.